I got so used to being the only woman in the room, I didn't even notice it anymore. Did you know that only 31% of sales leaders are women, even though 50% of the sales reps are women? I'm Amy Evans. After 25 years of sales leadership in corporate America, I help B2B tech and AI CEOs hit their number as a sales strategy advisor. I also host the Women in Sales Leadership podcast, where you'll learn what it takes to lead at the highest level, withstand the pressure to deliver the numbers, and elevate your career without losing yourself. No fluff, just the real stuff of women in sales leadership. If you aspire to become a CRO, vice president, first-time sales leader, or start your own business, you're in the right place. You are going to want to stop right now and click follow so you don't miss the episodes that drop every week. Welcome back to Women in Sales Leadership. This week's episode is part 2 of my conversation with Halley Eidson. Don't worry if you missed part 1. You can go back and listen. Trust me, you will want to. You would have to be working really hard to not be inspired by Halley and energized by her authenticity, her sheer will, and absolutely delightful good humor, all in the face of overcoming cancer and learning the hard way about leadership. And just when I thought we were done, Halley shared one more story that will have you smiling. I'm so glad you're here. You said something that I'd love to dive into a little bit more. You talked about how you view account executives as leaders. Can you share more about that?
Oh, yeah. My team is probably sick of hearing this, and so is everyone else. But like an AE is the CEO of their business. They are the CEO of their territory. Everyone else is a part of their executive suite or a part of their business. And so effective AEs, especially in the enterprise space, are the people who can communicate really, really plans and advocate for their customers in that sense. And so, like, you are very much the CEO of your business. I'm also a believer that an AE is the most powerful position at any SaaS company. I haven't been a seller outside of a SaaS company, so I'm just going to put SaaS in there. Could be other ones, but like in SaaS, an AE is the most powerful position. The entire org chart is designed around empowering the AEs to get the best results from the customers. That's a very, very powerful position. You know, my job is essentially to make sure that obstacles are removed from my AEs to serve their customers. The extended team's job are to make sure that our customers are served. And who's communicating those problems? The AE. So they are the tip of the spear. They are the most powerful people in any type of SaaS company, especially at DocuSign. And it's incredibly exciting to lead them.
That's awesome. Let's talk for a second about maybe like leadership advice or maybe even leadership examples that you've seen before that were not good. Bad advice.
Oh, God.
Bad examples. Don't name names. Of course, we don't want to, we're not here for that. Yeah. But I suspect that there's some stuff that comes to mind for you. What's some of the not great advice, the bad leadership advice or examples that you saw that you kind of watch out for, when you're doing your own leadership or looking at experiences that you've had along the way?
I have a funny story that kind of summarizes it, but there was once a QBR where there was a leader at a company that I worked at who presented his ideal team, and they were a leader of account executives. And the slide only had a picture of a Roomba. And the story was essentially like the team is programmed and can execute, and they sweep up all the stuff. And I was like, robots? You want us to be robots? I think there was a sweeter message to it. I truly do. They were a very nice person, but like, I just remember thinking, wow, we're robots. But that was kind of a shock factor. But I think that, there's never this one piece, but I think that ego-driven leaders are the ones that always to watch out for. The ones that, it's, what did they have? It's the shipmate, and then the self. Have you heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
Like the ones that always put the self first, the people that say I a lot, the people that don't fight for their team to get promotions or paid more or anything like that. It's one of those things that the people who very much just kind of put themselves above the team, whereas like at least my philosophy in leadership is like the team is always before you. Like fight for them first and then fight for yourself. You have to fight for yourself because if you advocate for yourself, like the team will also be advocated for, but always fight for them first. And so I think it's this like, and they're difficult to spot, but they're easy to spot. It's kind of like, it's art. You know it when you see it, and it's there are plenty of examples that anyone would be able to see. But I think that whenever I search out for leaders to mentor me or to receive advice from, I usually like it when people don't have an agenda, or maybe they're sneakier about their agenda. It's not so obvious, but the agenda-less leaders who really are just there to help and are more interested in solutions than they are about the title next to their name.
Hey there, I'm pausing the show for a moment. I want to extend an invitation to you to follow this show. Please stop right now and take just 15 seconds to hit follow on whichever app you're listening on. I know you are a generous person, and one more invitation I have is for you to please take a moment now and forward this episode to a friend who you think might enjoy it. It would go a long way to making a difference and spreading the word about women in sales leadership. Thank you so much, and back to the show.
Leaders who really are just there to help and are more interested in solutions than they are about the title next to their name.
That's gold.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What's one thing that that you wish other people knew, other leaders knew?
Well, I know one thing that I wish my AEs knew. Well, like I really know because I always tell them. I'm a frontline manager. I'm not the leader of some big fancy org. I'm a frontline manager, and I believe I have the best team at DocuSign. So it's like, I'm a frontline manager. I manage 6 people, and I think one of the biggest misconceptions people have about frontline managers is how much power they have. I really don't have that much power. There's so many things that are outside of my control, and like out of everything in my job, I try to not have those things stress me out. Like I can't control what quotas are. I can't always control sides of. I can influence, but I can't really control like huge territory carves. I can't control policies. I can't control all of these types of things. And I think a lot of, at least the mistakes I made like early on in my leadership career is I thought that I could control all of that. I thought I could influence all of it. And I'm like, oh no, like you got to talk to Dave in HR. Like that's not me. So it's one of those things that I wish ICs knew, and individual contributors for all listening, but like I wish ICs knew how little like control over the things they want their manager to have control over that they have. So that's like one secret that I don't think many people realize. And then the other thing for leaders that like I guess a secret that I wish they knew is, your company is going to be open for business tomorrow. Your company is going to be open for business next quarter. Everything is going to be fine. What goes up might come down, and what goes down will come back up. Everything at the end of the year is going to work out, and it's all going to be fine. And there's no reason to like stress out about it. Just get smart. Start thinking about, okay, well, how can I be better? Maybe how can we serve our customers more? If you have like, how can we serve our customers more? How can we improve operations? Everything's going to work out.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. One way or the other. So I've got one last question for you before we wrap up, and I asked this one of everybody, and you can take as much time as you want because this is one that every time I think about this question, I know the answer. I could tell you emphatically because it's just what's so for me. But what's the one leadership lesson? What's that one leadership lesson that you keep learning again and again? Kind of just, you learn it once and you think you got it, and then something happens, you're like, oh dang it, I gotta deal with this again, right? What is that for you?
Oh gosh, the thorn in my side problem? I don't know. Do you know what? Actually, I do have an answer, and that is delivering constructive feedback immediately. And I feel like,
oh my gosh.
yeah, I think delivering constructive feedback immediately, it's one of the hardest things to do. And because it always has, you have to balance it, you have to be empathetic, and you also have to kind of filter the feedback that you get maybe from someone else or a customer or whatever that is, and translate it to, okay, what makes sense for this person, and how can I effectively communicate it so they don't just think, oh, well, my boss is a jerk today, and they're actually thinking, oh, I'm going to try to improve that in the future. So I think that, when I think about some of the biggest mistakes I've made, it's always sitting on bad news and not handling it faster. And, I think about that whenever it comes to talent management. I think about that whenever it comes to maybe a product update that a customer, they needed to know ahead of time and maybe they wouldn't have liked, or a product sunsetting, things like that. And so just making sure that, ripping the Band-Aid off with empathy and handling it faster. It's a mistake I try not to make, but it's, it happens and life happens. And all of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, 2 weeks later, I forget what it was. And so I think that's probably what it is.
So first off, congratulations on being a human, because you're not alone. And no people that I know, maybe people who enjoy giving bad news or enjoy, it's a challenge. Bad news is challenging. It kind of goes against our humanity, to, quite frankly, to be kind and want to stay positive as much as we can, especially when you're doing sales for a living. Sales is a positive career. You have to be optimistic and positive to do it and to lead people in doing it. And you are obviously doing a very wonderful job, Haley,
oh gosh,
leading your team. Yeah. Well, look, I can tell by the way that you talk about your team and you talk about your journey, that it really lights you up to work with them and to be really in this battle, if you will, together that you do every year. The battle is, or the contest is, like, can we do it together? Can we get to this end state together? I'm going to offer you a comment on something that you said. And that is this. I think you do yourself a little bit of disservice saying that you think that account executive is the most important person in the company. Because hang on a second. And I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm telling you, I'm just offering my perspective. My perspective is that the first line sales leaders are the most critical people inside any business. You all determine, the talent that's out in the field. You guide, you lead, you train, you negotiate, you serve as an executive when one is called for. You're wearing all these hats. And, the sales team really does live and die by their first line leader, right? They're going to either come on board for that leader or leave because of that leader. So you're in a really super critical position and role, and you're having a huge impact in it. Congratulations on your promotion. It's such a thrill to hear you tell your story and to be selling at the enterprise space in your late 20s. I know people who are in their 40s, in my age, who are still trying to break into enterprise sales. Okay. So you've had a fantastic career so far. It'll be I can't wait to see what you do next.
I do have a fun story about how the deal started. It's kind of,
lay it on me. Tell me all about the deal.
So my 28-year-old self working at a smaller company, had an amazing boss. Her name was Jane. She was just absolutely fantastic. And she always had this, and I just headquartered in Chicago, my own backyard. And so she always had this thing, like, if you don't have enough pipeline, I don't want to see your face. I want you out there. I want you going to conferences. I want you going to network happy hours, show up on your customer site. And the Sears Tower is pretty like locked down when it comes to security. And I remember walking there one time, okay, I want to get up to like the 50th floor where the United offices were or something like, I forget which floor exactly it was on. And so I remember seeing a door to the stairs by the and I couldn't get up the elevators because of all the security. So I was like, okay, Jane doesn't want me back in the office because they don't have enough pipeline. So I was like, I'm fit. I'm just going to wait for that door to open.
Oh my God.
I'm in there. I was like, put my ballet flats on, and the door opened. Someone threw out some trash, and I scurry on in there. And I walk up like what felt like a million floors. And I was like, this is my genius idea. I'm going to go in there. I had donuts. I was like, I can just sit in the break room and just see, like who's there. I'm like one of them. And so I get up, I'm like, okay, I found I had enough people tell me no to know, like, okay, here's a floor where the people I want to meet with are. And I get to the floor, and there was the key card. So, in the stairwell. So I couldn't even get in after all of that because the key card. And so I end up sending someone an email. I was like, I was so desperate to meet with you. I thought I could sneak in and I failed. I am locked in the stairwell. At the very least, can you have the mercy to walk me to?
And it's got to be one of the. I wish you still had that email. Oh my gosh.
I don't work at that company anymore. And they did. And then it ended up being like, there was this really, really nice guy in procurement. And he ended up.
A nice guy in procurement.
Whoa. He was great. And he ended up, introducing me to the nice people. And we had this really big SOW contract signed about 6 months later. And so it's, I always like to tell that story because it's just like, I feel like, especially there's a lot of Gen Zs that support my team. And, they didn't, I'm like, wow, like you only have to work in the office 2 days a week and all this type of stuff. I'm like, you don't understand. Like when I started back in my day, I was literally knocking on doors that were locked and in the stairwell.
Climbing 50 flights of stairs.
Exactly. And so they're like, well, I sent, 1,000 emails through outreach today and no responses. It's like, well, do you have your sneakers on? Let's get after it. And so I always like
ballet flats and a dozen donuts, baby.
Exactly. We can do this. And so I always like to kind of end on that story. It's the heydays, but there's selling's so much fun.
It is fun, isn't it?
And this is like the relationships that you build. But I think that that's probably the biggest part that I love from my job. I get to see like my team kind of like getting out there and having their ideas, and every single one of them sells differently. And so, I always like to say there's a million different ways to get to your quota, and they are proof of that. And they're all great. It's just they're all different, and so it's just when I had to put my sneakers on, they can be a bit creative than maybe when I was. But it's so much fun to see that, and it's so much fun to see people grow, and it's fun to see results delivered. It's fun to see how our customers are being serviced. So I mean, I love that part of the job, and so it's fun to grow in this career path. So yeah, I enjoy it. But I'll leave you on that. Yeah. Donuts, ballet flats, and like a million floors in the Sears Tower.
And the deal got sold 6 months later, by the way. $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't beat that. You can't beat that.
Well,
Haley, what a pleasure. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I think we've given everybody a really great sense of you and your story. So I'll wrap us up there, but what a pleasure. So thank you.
I'm sure like any of the security people at Sears Tower.
Okay, you said you have one other story, Haley. What is it?
Right. And it is the original DocuSign sales pitch for me. And it wasn't when I was at DocuSign. It was when I was at this company called ePay, a very fun startup. And there was this big deal for me at the time. I'm like, I just got married and I was like, okay, I have this big deal. It's committed. And I want to like bring them lunch and bring the paperwork. I want to print it out all nice for them. And I'm just going to bring them lunch and make a whole day out of like day one with, your new provider. And so my boss was like, are you sure you want to do that? Like you can just, send them a DocuSign and get it all taken care of right now. And then you can do, I was like, no, I want to make a big deal about this. And so it's a committed deal, everything. I was, everything was kind of ironed out. Like, you know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
I get a zip car because I didn't have a car at the time. Drive my little zip car there, and the sandwiches in the back, and I show up. Had like all my order forms like all ready to sign, and the building was on fire.
Out of town. It's not funny. That's not funny, but it's funny.
Toronto bakery fire. If you Google
Oh
it,
my
you can
goodness.
see it. And yeah, that they didn't sign. And so and the worst part was I was thinking, well, the whole building isn't on fire. Like it's it's really only like 75% of the building. There might be corporate offices in the back that are fine. And so building was on fire. They didn't sign. And for everyone listening, that is why you send me a DocuSign.
Oh, she ends with a DocuSign pitch. I love it.
That's why you do that. It's all taken care of. It would have been like linked to their back office system to have all of those nice,
Yeah.
but like, nope, no, I had to make a whole show.
Of course. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't know. We might have to have like a poll on which story is funnier. Hopefully nobody was hurt in that fire, by the way.
I miss
Hopefully.
my 20s. My 20s were fun.
Well, for many reasons, I'm sure.
Bakeries on fire, security breaches.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you know what? We laugh about that, but there's something to be said for that, like innocent fearlessness.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna not call it cluelessness because that's what it probably really was.
Oh,
But
I was
like
clueless.
that, just like go for it. It was just like, hey, anything goes. Anything goes. I'll try anything. Kind of attitude, which is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
What's the worst thing can possibly happen? You got a zip car full of sandwiches and
Well, the building was on fire.
the building could burn down. That's on the list. It's not on my worst case scenario list, but it's I guess it goes
I
there.
always tell anytime my team has like a big deal that slips, I tell that story, and it usually gets laughs.
Yeah, and you know this too. Like if you hire the right people,
Yeah.
they're going to be 100 times harder on themselves than
Oh,
you could
yeah.
ever be.
Oh, yeah.
When things go wrong, don't we all just need to be lifted up a little bit instead of, our face rubbed in a mistake or something not going as planned?
Oh, yeah. I'm a big
yeah,
believer. Everyone always knows what they're doing wrong,
Mhm.
unless they don't because they're crazy, and that's a different problem. But like it's like I just finished my like mid-year reviews with my team, and whenever I give feedback, I always ask them like, "What's the feedback you have for yourself first?" And their
Mhm.
lists are a million times longer than the list that I could ever create, and I'm just like, I'm almost like, "You're not bad. Why are you saying this?" And so it's one of those things that it's just like people know they don't need to be
Yeah.
scolded. Everyone's an adult that has a job, unless I don't know, like you're working in like a movie theater. But everyone's an adult who has a job. They know what they're doing right. They know what they're doing wrong. Just force them to tell you, and then support them through it. But anyway,
Yeah.
lots of fun
I think
stories.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think the one thing that all leaders can do in those conversations is, that we are going to always be harder on ourselves, and we may know what the things are,
Yeah.
But here's what sometimes can happen is that while you may know what the thing is that you need to work on,
Yeah.
what could be missing is like the filling the gap of how to take knowledge of what's not working
Hmm.
and fill the gap into what actions can I do to fix, to make progress, right? And also some of it, what you just accept and say, I'm never going to be good at this part.
Yeah.
And I just need to figure out how to like work around it and move on.
Exactly. Or it's just like, or
Whatever.
maybe that's when you use your account team. You might not be, gifted with all these other things, but you have, somebody who's definitely paid to help you, like, or help the customer who can fill in that gap. Whenever you have a whole account team, which every SaaS provider, it's the whole family selling to or serving the customer. There's always going to be someone who has the strengths, and there's always going to be someone who can fill in those weaknesses. So that, back.
I think that's a perfect note. I think that's a perfect
Exactly.
note to wrap on. All right. Well, I'm gonna put us away for the weekend. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Women in Sales Leadership podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us and share this with a friend. I'm serious. Stop right now and take a look at the app, whatever app you're using to listen to this episode on, and hit follow and share this with a friend. Send them a text. See if they would enjoy this show as well, learning all about and meeting women in sales leadership. Hey, and if you know somebody who is crushing it in sales leadership and should be on this show, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Amy Evans, or the Women in Sales Leadership podcast. I would love to connect. See you next time.